Good morning, Janet Gorant here. I'm the founder of Tribe Sober. And today is a pretty special day for me because I'm 6 years sober today. So that's been quite a journey, and today I thought maybe I could share some useful stuff for those of you on this journey. So I hope this is coming through okay. Do say hi if you're watching this so I can be sure that the sound is all right. So let me reflect back 6 years ago today. I woke up feeling absolutely dreadful. I was used to hangovers, but this was something else. And not only did I feel dreadful with the hangover, but I had this awful blank. I couldn't remember most of the previous day. I couldn't remember the whole afternoon. I couldn't remember the evening. I had no idea what had happened. And if you want the whole sorry tale, then you'll find it on our very first Tribe Sober podcast. But to cut a long story short, I'd had a walking, talking blackout. I'd had blackouts before, you know, those kind of blackouts that the end of the evening's a bit blurry and you wake up in the morning checking for your jacket and your handbag, and it's all a bit vague. But this was something else. This was a whole afternoon and evening lost when my friends actually told me that I seemed quite normal. I was walking and talking, so this really frightened me. So I googled it, and that scared me even more because it said that when that kind of thing happens, it means that your brain is so soaked in alcohol that you can't actually make memories in the first place. It's not just that you've forgotten stuff, but you can't make those memories. So that frightened me because I think I knew that I was damaging my physical health because after all I'd had breast cancer. But the fact that I was damaging my mental health and my brain function as well, that really did it for me. And that moment I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm finished. I can't drink alcohol anymore. So that was a big turning point for me. Of course, then I had to work out why and how. Now that I knew the why, I had to work out the how, but that's another story. But yeah, that was when everything changed for me. So I've been reflecting on what I can do today to help other people, because obviously I can bang on about the benefits endlessly, and believe me, there are many, many benefits. I personally feel like I've been given a second chance at life. But I've written a lot about those benefits, and I think I've podcasted and I've Facebook lived about them. So I was trying to think of something different today. So I thought, well, let me look back and think about what was the most difficult thing. So I've pulled out my 6 biggest challenges and tried to convert them into tips so that, you know, maybe that will help some people. So let me take you through my 6 challenges. So my challenge number 1 was I had to find my people. I'd been struggling alone with this drinking thing for 10 whole years. And I'd been making 2 huge mistakes. And I look back now and it is so obvious to me, but it wasn't at the time. And my first mistake was I was trying to moderate. And that was because I couldn't envisage my life without alcohol. So I thought, well, you know, 1.5 bottles of wine a week, they say, is low risk. So I'll try and drink within those limits. And of course, it was absolutely hopeless. And now I know that once your drinking's crossed a line, you know, you'll never be able to moderate. But there I was trying to moderate again and again and collapsing again and again and feeling terrible. So not a good period in my life at all. And the second huge mistake I did was I tried to do it alone. And that was because I was ashamed. I didn't want to tell anybody about this problem I seemed to have developed. And the problem with shame is that it kind of isolates us. So my thinking at the time was, well, I got myself into this mess, so, I'm a strong person. I'm sure I can just get myself out of it and nobody need be the wiser. And I did used to mention it sometimes to my friends very kind of casually, and I got two responses. One response would be, oh, don't be silly, Janet, you only drink a bottle of wine a night. We all do that. There's nothing wrong with you. It's completely normal. Or my other friends would say, well, if you want to change your drinking, just drink one or two glasses when you go out. So neither of those responses were remotely helpful for the reasons you can imagine. But finally, after the walking, talking blackout I mentioned, I had to put my pride to one side. I had to accept that I could not do this, and I had to reach out for help. I had no idea where to go, so of course I trotted along to AA. And I didn't really like it there. I found it very depressing. I hated labelling myself an alcoholic, and many of the people there were drinking in the morning, and I wasn't quite there yet. I was probably on my way there. So it didn't work. But I didn't give up. I carried on, and I carried on looking for support. And eventually I found a workshop in London, went to that workshop, found my people. There were professional women downing a bottle of wine every night and knowing that they were harming their health and they had to make a change. So I found my people. So my very first tip, of course, is find a bunch of people that you can relate to, even if it's only a couple of people trying to do the same thing. Or of course you can come to our tribe, but there's many ways that you can get support to get sober in these internet days, which is fantastic. So my first challenge, finding my people, that was a real game changer. Now challenge number 2, which is not easy when you're starting out, but somehow you have to try and keep perspective. If you've been drinking for decades, you're not going to fix this overnight. And I didn't seem to realise that. I was expecting it to be relatively easy once I'd made up my mind. And it was ironic, really, because in my corporate days, I used to run workshops for executives on managing change. And I can still remember of these workshops with all these complex diagrams and curves, and I used to tell them how complex and difficult it was, not only to make the change, but to make that change stick. But, all that advice seemed to have vanished, because I certainly didn't think of that when I was trying to stop. I didn't realise that it was going to be a long haul. But my challenge really for those first 6 months at least was just to not drink. If you can get through a significant period of time without drinking, then things will begin to fall into place. But for me, I had to learn to deal with life without alcohol. And it was, for me, I was dealing with sleeping problems, mood swings, fatigue. It wasn't a great time, those first 6 months. But it got easier. So I think once I got the hang of navigating my life without drinking, then I was ready to go deeper. So then I had to learn to deal with emotions, I had to practice gratitude, I had to journal, I had to explore new interests. Most importantly, I had to stay connected with my sober tribe and, just share with them, share my ups and downs with them. So I think we need to remember that recovery is never linear. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. We have to go through all those stages, like the bereavement curve, where we go through denial, we go through anger, we go through anxiety, we go through guilt, and finally we get to acceptance. So tip number 2, try and keep perspective, see the big picture. Focus on not drinking and it will fall into place. And always remember, however hard it is worth it. The benefits are huge. The third thing I had to learn how to do was dealing with my emotions. I'd been dodging those emotions for decades. Every time I felt something a bit uncomfortable, I would just wash it away with booze. And when you first stop drinking those emotions, they come in thick and fast, and they can be quite overwhelming. And I think I was a bit of a hedonist, like many boozers are, and I was always looking for the party, for the good times. And I had to learn that we're not put on earth to be happy 24/7, in spite of what Instagram might tell us. I had to learn to sit with my sadness. When I got depressed, I had to sit with it. And invariably, after a day or two, I would feel fine again. So I had to learn that sadness, just as happiness, is a transitory thing. I try to think of those feelings as clouds going across the sky. They will pass. So I had to deal with my emotions, and I also had to deal with limiting beliefs. And the classic limiting belief that I've often talked about, but it's socialising. For me, socialising was about drinking. I mean, that's what it meant. I even remember on one kind of application form for something, it asked for your hobbies, and I put down socialising, but what I meant was drinking wine with my friends. That was the only hobby that I could think of. So I had to learn to socialise without alcohol. And the way that I did that was by socialising without alcohol again and again. So I spent months going out, socialising, drinking alcohol-free drinks and not enjoying myself at all. You know, sometimes I would do a runner after half an hour, but I did it. I forced myself to do the work. And eventually I learned how to relax, how to do sober small talk, and how to actually listen to people rather than trying to perform as we do when we've had a few drinks. And it all fell into place, but it was very uncomfortable. So my tip number 3 is, be ready for those emotions. And as our coach Lynette always says, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's how we learn to deal with our emotions, and that's where the personal growth comes from. So challenge number 4, dealing with anhedonia. So those of you that watch Facebook Live regularly will know what that means. If there's anyone watching this that doesn't, it means the inability to feel pleasure from anything. And I got anhedonia big time. It came from nowhere and knocked me sideways, really. A few months into sobriety, it nearly derailed everything. I felt really low. I felt so depressed. I'd lost interest in everything. I felt like I was living in this flat, grey place. I used to think back fondly all the time to the good times that I used to have when I was drinking alcohol. I felt like maybe I'd made a terrible mistake, and I certainly felt that I'd lost more than I'd gained. I was facing this kind of void. I thought, is this what life is going to be like? Can I really cope with this? But of course now I know that my body was just so low on those feel-good hormones that we need. My body had been so used to relying on that chemical buzz that we get from alcohol that the natural dopamine just hadn't come back yet. So there was this kind of gap between the chemical high and the natural highs that our bodies are designed to give us. And it was a matter of waiting for my body to recalibrate. And gradually that managed to happen. Somehow I managed to get through that period. I wasn't sure I would make it, but I did. It was definitely the hardest time. But I managed to hang in there, and very slowly it got better. Really slowly, but now and again I'd have a good day. It wouldn't be one of those grey, flat days. And I started to see glimpses of just how good life might be in the future. I could feel my creativity returning. I could feel my energy returning. I started to get all these ideas about things that I could do, including setting up Tribe Sober. So coming through the other side of anhedonia was a huge relief. And if you're in that period now, I know it's tough, but just hang in there and you'll be amazed what you'll find on the other side. The very worst thing to do when you're in the anhedonia phase is just to give up, and then you go back to square one. You do the difficult thing all over again, and you end up with anhedonia again. So push through it, just keep going one day at a time. So tip number 4 is, of course, be ready for that low, be ready for anhedonia, and know that it's going to pass. My challenge number 5 was saying goodbye to my best friend. For me, alcohol had been in my life since, I think I started drinking at 15, 16, and I thought, wow, it just made me feel so different, and it had always been there. And my constant companion, my constant friend, and now I had to learn to live without it after decades of drinking. And I had to go through a kind of grieving period, just as if I'd lost a close friend. So on my first soberversary, I marked that departure of my best friend by writing a goodbye to alcohol letter. And I found that writing that letter such a cathartic and powerful experience. And it drew a line under those drinking years once and for all. It wasn't full of regret and anxiety. It was a relief, and it was saying, I'll never forget those years. And yes, we had fun, but now I'm moving on. And it really marked the occasion that I was moving on to something different. So tip number 5, write a goodbye to alcohol letter. Just draw a line under those drinking years. Some people write it on day 1, others, like me, they need to wait until they can get the perspective to write something like that. So challenge number 6 is I had to find my purpose. One of the podcasts that I did, I think it's episode 33, it was with a weight loss coach called Adam Shabley. And Adam has quite a similar approach to mine when we work with people and help them. He works from a kind of mindset perspective. And I've always been intrigued by the number of people, the proportion of people that have lost huge amounts of weight. I mean, Adam himself, he lost 100 pounds. And a lot of those people, I think it's an amazing stat, something like 95%, they put that weight back on again. And indeed, AA, people that lose weight with AA, 95% of those often relapse. So that fascinated me. Why? Surely you've done all that work. Why would you want to go back to that difficult place you were in again? And Adam said to me that it was perfectly clear, because he observed so many people do this and not do this. And he said that the ones that kept the weight off were the ones that found a purpose in their life. Because for some people, getting sober or losing weight, it does provide a purpose. And you work really hard and you reach that goal. But then sometimes it might be a bit of an anticlimax. And, with the weight loss people, Adam said, so there they were, looking slim, looking great, and expecting their life to be completely transformed. And somehow it wasn't, so they would slip back into eating. And it was almost as if subconsciously they were getting fat again, so they would have a new purpose to lose all that weight again. But you don't want to be in that kind of cycle. It's exhausting and crazy and very bad for your health. So then he said that the other group, the people that did manage to keep that weight off, that was because they had found a purpose, they'd done something else. Some of them had become weight loss coaches themselves and they were helping others. Some people had gone travelling, some people had changed their career or gone to study something new. The ones that kept the weight off had got a purpose in their life. So, just as focusing on sobriety gives you a purpose, once you're there or once you're getting towards there, you need to set other goals. And this was a cue for me to read my favourite quote by Frankl. Those of you that know me know that I'm always bringing out this quote, but I just love it. Viktor Frankl, I'm sure many of you know who he is. He said, life is not primarily a quest for pleasure, as Freud believed, or a quest for power, as Adler taught, but it's actually a quest for meaning. And the greatest task for any person is to find meaning in their life. And I think that's beautiful. And it really it was a bit of a light bulb moment for me when I discovered that. I thought, aha, so that's the point of life. We're not just put here to party. So tip number 6, find your purpose. So what I want to do now is summarize those 6 tips, and for if there's anyone watching this that doesn't know Tribe Sober, then I can just tell you how we can help you with some of those if you need a bit of support. So find your tribe. Well, obviously I'm going to suggest that you find our tribe. So go to tribesober.com, hit the join our tribe button and have a look at what we can offer you and the benefits. But our tribe is pretty awesome, but there are plenty of other tribes, and AA works brilliantly for many, many people. So just find your people, find the kind of people that you can relate to. People that aren't going to say, oh, just have a glass of wine and be quiet, there's nothing wrong with you. People that will understand you because they've been there. Number 2, keep perspective. And we've got a tiny little simple tool which helps a lot of people to do just that. It's an annual tracker, and it's a calendar, a 1-year calendar, and it's got little squares, and every time you clock up an alcohol-free day, you just colour in that square. And it sounds very simple, but the joy of that is because if you have a slip up, you don't think, oh, well, that's it, I'm hopeless, I can't do this, and give up. You mark it down, it's a slip up, and then you get straight back on the bus and you clock up more alcohol-free days. And we've seen this over and over again. People slip up and they get back, and they slip up and they get back. But the sober stretches that they're clocking up get longer and longer and longer until they're permanent. So keeping your eye on that big picture is so important. And that's what I hope that these 6 tips will do for you as well. Make you realise that, oh yes, it's anhedonia, or oh yes, I've got to find a purpose now. Keep your eye on the big picture. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So look at your limiting beliefs. Grab a copy of The Naked Mind by Annie Grace, or come to one of our workshops. We cover the limiting beliefs in that. And of course we have our own hypnotherapist, Belinda. She was talking on last week's podcast. She offers a complimentary hypnotherapy session to our members where she'll go through your individual limiting beliefs with you. So our next workshop is on the 10th of July, and you can find that on our website, tribesober.com. Tip number 4 was be ready for the low. I really wish someone had told me about that anhedonia thing, because then I would have not been so worried, thinking, oh, is this going to be my life? Because it's not going to be your life. It's going to be a couple of months. But I think if you're ready for that low, then it makes all the difference. And in fact, our coach Lynette has done a Facebook Live on dealing with anhedonia. So you can go to our Tribe Sober YouTube channel and find it there, dealing with anhedonia. And she's got lots of great tips to really help you to get through that phase. Tip number 5, write a goodbye to alcohol letter. I actually read mine on this morning's podcast. And you can also go on our website and hit the inspiration button, and there's lots of fabulous letters on there. I think we must have at least 50 on there now, but they're amazing. And if you're not sure where to start with your letter, just read some of those and you'll get inspired. And the last tip, of course, is to find your purpose. And if you're struggling to find your purpose, then think about having a coaching session. I mean, your coach is your thinking partner. Just the power of sitting or Zooming these days with somebody who's listening actively to you for a whole hour, you'll be amazed at the ideas and the creativity that you'll come up with. So if you're stuck, then book a coaching session and start looking for that purpose. And I think that's me, 25 minutes. So let me see, is there anybody there? Oh, thank goodness, yes, some people. Hi there. Hello, Lynette, Flick. Oh, good, you can hear me, Natasha. Diane, hi, Di. Yeah, and Hedonia. So important, yeah. I think once we understand we're going to go through that phase, we can handle it. Being prepared is everything, isn't it? Oh, Pauline. Hello, Pauline. Don't think we've met you before. 2 weeks today. Well done. After having to reset. Well done you for resetting. So I hope those 6 tips will help you. Binge and restrict, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Lina. If we think that life is going to be all fluffy bunnies and rainbows when we're sober, then we're going to be disappointed. But what we can be sure of is that life is going to be more real when we get sober. Yep, superpower. Okay, awesome. Well, it's time for me to go out to lunch and celebrate my soberversary number 6. So maybe I'll post a picture of that lunch on our group later. So thanks everyone and have a fabulous weekend.